Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. The Phils got shut out again last night in Houston. Is this just a bad stretch, or is it a bad sign of things to come?
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic doing sports talk radio for over 5 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure that you're rating and reviewing if you're listening to us in podcast form. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can hear us just anywhere you get your podcasts. You can also, like I just brought up, watch us on YouTube. And if you're doing that, please hit the subscribe button. It'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. It's free and easy to subscribe to Locked On Phillies, and we really appreciate it because it helps us out too. Helps you, helps us. It's a great thing. So thank you to everyone who's done that and everyone who's going to do that. No thanks to the Philadelphia Phillies, who got shut out for the second straight game yesterday. That was flat out miserable. And this series in Houston has been, we'll just say rough, so that I don't get in trouble for saying words that I'm not allowed to say on the podcast. Like, it's been a bad series in Houston for the offense. It's been a great series for the pitching staff. I mean, Zach Wheeler was dominant last night. You saw Ranger Suarez really, really good in game 1, but can't win if you don't score. We're also going to talk a little bit later in the episode. Dave Dombrowski spoke with Jayson Stark and Doug Glanville on their Starkville podcast and discussed trade deadline ideas, thoughts, and things like that. He had some interesting things to say of how he's approaching stuff. And then Jayson Stark also was on our radio station at 97.5 The Fanatic with the Mike Missinelli show, and he talked about his takeaways from that interview and other stuff he's talked to Dombrowski about. So a lot of info on Dave Dombrowski coming up, and we'll preview Game 3. Phils really, really could use a salvage win so that they don't get swept out in Houston. Now, I saw some people asking this question on our YouTube chat for our radio morning show, Kincaid and Salchunas. And they were like, when was the last time, has a team ever gotten shut out 3 times in a row? Yes. It literally just happened to the Yankees, who were in the World Series last year. It happened to them like a week and a half ago. So it does happen. So that's why I'm asking the question, is this just a bad stretch, or is this a sign of bigger problems for the Philadelphia Phillies? And it's just a bad stretch. All right, it is. I promise. It's just a bad stretch. I'm not saying they're the world's perfect offense. I'm not saying they're not going to have other bad stretches. But remember, before this series, we talked about, hey, this is a really tough stretch of the schedule. Lower the expectations a little bit. Surviving this is okay. Now, getting shut out twice is not surviving. But you have to be cognizant of where the lineup is right now. They faced another lefty last night, and they should have gotten more, right? It was their best chance. The guy had a 4.5 ERA, but the Phils they're not putting stuff together right now. 4 hits in game 1, which is an unacceptable offensive output, even though Framber Valdez and the Astros bullpen were good in that game. Last night, the Phillies, 7 hits, but 10 strikeouts, so they struck out more, and it was just like they're not coming through with runners in scoring position. They have opportunities, but they're not cashing anything in right now. And we've seen this from the team before, but if you look around baseball, you'll see this with other great teams too. It does happen. It sucks in the moment, but you can't lose sight of it. We have this like laser focus on what's happening right in front of us that makes us forget about what's happened before and makes us not think about what could happen in the future, right? You get so caught up in what the exact thing in front of your eyes right now is that you lose any idea of what could be or what was. And I get that. That's the immediacy of fandom. I'm not saying, oh, you're a bad fan, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm just saying, try and open your mind a little bit to things that have happened and things that could happen. But here's why I think it's just a bad stretch. Because the lineup the Phillies have trotted out the past couple of days has not been their top-tier lineup. It just hasn't been. And part of that's the Bryce Harper injury. The hope is that he'll play again in Atlanta. He's not going to play today, but maybe he'll play in this series against the Braves, and getting him back will be big. I got to give the Phillies credit. They made the move that we talked about on the podcast yesterday. They played Bryson Stott at second base against the lefty, which is something they don't normally do, so that they could play Alec Boehm at first, that they could play Edmundo Sosa at third, and Otto Kemp in left. So that way you didn't have to play Buddy Kennedy, who, I mean, I like Buddy Kennedy. I do, but he can't help this team right now. He's not helping this team right now. You can't have him out there. So that's tough. But the bottom part of your lineup yesterday was from JT Realmuto on, and we can even count JT. You went 0 for 4. JT, Bryson Stott, lefty. He did get a hit last night, which was nice to see. Edmundo Sosa, who was 0 for 4. Otto Kemp, 1 for 3. Brandon Marsh actually went 2 for 3 last night. He's really, really good right now. And Brandon Marsh needs to be in the lineup. Rojas had a rough game 1. I understand why they played Brandon Marsh. I'd like to see more of Marsh. This is not the Connor Thomas who was telling you, hey, give Marsh time, make him the starter at the start of the season. Like, I get it. They tried it. He was really bad at the start of the season. But when you have a hot player, I don't care if he's in your postseason plans. I don't care if he was bad at the start of the year. If he's hot right now, he plays right now. That's how this game works. There's ups and downs. It's 162. It's not football where you roll out the same starters for the 17 weeks because every week is infinitely more important than a baseball game. No, this is one where you ride the hot hand, and Brandon Marsh is the hot hand. You got a righty on the mound today, and it's a damn good one. So we'll talk about that in the preview of Game 3, but I like that they did that. Bottom line, though, you're not winning many games when it's JT, Stott, Sosa, Kemp, Marsh down there at the bottom. That's not your best lineup. You want Bryce Harper back. You want Stott to step up a little bit. Maybe that left-on-left hit that he got yesterday will be something that jumpstarts him. Marsh can play for now, I guess, but you still need an upgrade out there. Is Dave Dombrowski willing to do that? We'll talk about that coming up next. But let's just add Bryce Harper back in the lineup, right? Trey Turner will lead off. Then you have I guess Alec Bohm bats 2, Harper bats 3, Schwarber bats 4, Castellanos bats 5. Then you can move Realmuto down to 6th. Stott bats 7th. Marsh bats 8th, or Kemp bats 8th. Marsh bats 9th. I mean, I like that lineup a lot better. And if you throw Sosa in there for Stott, cool. Or if you throw Kepler in there for Kemp, cool. Like, Kemp's batting 255 right now, so maybe he deserves more opportunity over Kepler, but Kepler's a more proven major league player as far as experience is concerned. Either way, facing 2 tough lefties, not wanting to go with Kepler in left field, which means Kemp is out there, and he's still a young player, and he hasn't really shown enough pop yet at the major league level through, was he at like 50-some at-bats? The Phillies are trying to workshop something in the Bryce Harper absence, and a couple of guys that they need to balance out their lineup are cold right now. So that's just where we're at. It doesn't mean that the team stinks. It doesn't mean that they're never going to score a run again. It doesn't mean that they're terrible and they're going to miss the playoffs and they can't win the division. Like, take a deep breath. 2 games ago, we were talking about how that Mets series could be a momentum changer and changes the mindset for Phillies fans and how awesome it was that they took 2 or 3 from the Mets. The offense was rolling. Everything was great. And then 3 days later, including the off day, all of a sudden the Phillies stink. Like, it's just, we got bipolar parts of the fan base. And I understand that happens when you've had the emotional investment that we've had in this team and you've had the results that you've had with this team where they come up short in the postseason and the way they've come up short. Like, I get it. But this is one of those times where don't overreact. Now, I don't like the way they're playing. I don't want you to think I'm sitting here saying, oh, it's okay, guys. Don't worry about it. Just go try again today. Like, no, score a damn run. Score. It's not that hard. Touch on plate. Don't get shut out 3 games in a row. Don't get shut out 2 games in a row. Don't get shut out once. Like, this team should score runs. Schwarber, Turner, Castellanos, Realmuto, Bohm. Those are guys that should be able to create at least a run scoring opportunity in a game, but they haven't done that. So I'm not sitting here happy with how the games have gone. This has been a miserable series outside of the starting pitching, and that needs to improve. And I'm going to hold them to that standard, but I'm also not going to let the blip on the radar, right? This little 2-game stretch of a 162-game season, I'm not going to let it overshadow what I believe this team to be overall. Now, are they good enough to win a World Series? That's a whole different conversation. And that's one that's going to be unanswered until July 31st and probably for a little bit of time after that because of the time it would take for trade deadline acquisitions to bake in and show us what they can be and find their spots, and Rob Thompson to kind of tool around with maybe a lineup change, bullpen role changes, starter going to the bullpen. All of that stuff is to be determined. Maybe a guy getting called up like Justin Crawford, who people are losing their minds. Why isn't he up? Why isn't he up? All right. He's going to play at the major league level this year, I firmly believe. If he doesn't, we'll have a very different conversation. But remember, it's still June. We're not even halfway through the season. Actually, when the Phillies finish their game today, they will be at the halfway point. They will have completed their 81st game. So I guess technically in between the fourth inning today, or in between the fourth and fifth inning, will be when we hit the halfway point of the major league season. So there you have it. We're almost there, folks. But then think back to game one of the regular season. Do you remember game one? Just jog your memory for a second. Well, Mackenzie Gore had like 13 strikeouts against the Phillies, and they won because they got after the Washington Nationals bullpen after Mackenzie Gore really shut them down. And Gore's gone on to have a pretty solid year. But my point is this. How many of you guys remember that? How many of you guys sat here and can think about what happened in that game? Long, long way away. And we're that far away from still even reaching the postseason. And then there's all the postseason after that. So everyone take a deep breath. Team's not playing well right now. I haven't loved their approach in the series. I haven't loved their lineups in the series, but it's what they've got right now. It's not a forever problem. At least I don't think it's a forever problem. We'll see. I could be speaking with a very different tone tomorrow if they get shut out again today. And there's a chance they could against a really darn good pitcher that Houston shot out there that we're going to talk about later on in the episode. But more important than who they're facing today is the guy that is facing down the trade deadline at the head of the Phillies front office. What did Dave Dombrowski have to say with Jayson Stark and Doug Glanville? And what did Jayson Stark have to say afterwards about it? We'll talk about it next as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Let's talk about Supply House first, though, because if you got to get the supplies you need, well, you got to go to the site made for the skilled trades, and that's Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website, it's packed with super helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. So you know what you're getting, why you're getting it, and that it's the right product. And, they got a lot of options. They've got a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands. So you're going to find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Maybe you need help with an order. Happens all the time, even with the best businesses. Well, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service. So you're always going to talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, you can go even further. Their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Again, check them out, supplyhouse.com. What did Dave Dombrowski have to say about the upcoming Major League Baseball trade deadline? We're just a little over a month away. So this is the time where you start to hear the real rumors, not the Cedric Mullins could fit. Luis Robert, they tried to trade him last year in Chicago. No, like bona fide, this is who teams are looking at. These are what the whispers are for this year in the moment. Here are the teams that are being aggressive. And the Phillies, they're going to be aggressive. Nobody has gone out and denied that yet. Nobody says they're just going to rest on their laurels and just roll into October with the exact roster that they have right now. That would be negligent. And I don't think Dave Dombrowski is negligent. Now, will he go far enough to improve this team to get them to where they need to be? I don't know. I can't say that with certainty because the past couple years, I don't think we've seen him go far enough. I like the moves that he made last year. Austin Hayes didn't work out. Injury stuff probably overvalued the player. Even though he's put together a solid year for the Reds this year, he didn't get it done here in Philadelphia. Estevez was a nice pickup. I did like to see that. But bottom line is this. I wanted to see more. I wanted to see more impact. Now, it's tough to do with the deadline, current day and age of baseball, with more teams making the postseason. You're looking at that extra wild card team, and all of a sudden everybody feels like they're in it on July 31st. Maybe the deadline needs to get moved back. That would be something that I would consider. Move it into mid-August. Make it like August 15th instead of July 31st. Those 2 weeks could make a little bit of a difference. Add a team in there that's going to be a seller. Add a team in there that's going to be a buyer. I don't know. Just me spitballing here. But Dave Dombrowski is the expert on this, so let's talk a little bit about what he said. Now, the way that he seemed to be pointing. And take this for what you will. Big move seems like one of them, right? Now, what is that big move? Could it be bullpen? Absolutely. Could it be outfield? Absolutely. Dave Dombrowski didn't mince words, though, when he was asked about the hierarchy of problems. The bullpen is the number one focus. That is where he's looking. He said it. All right, so expect a big-time arm to be added to the Philadelphia Phillies bullpen. This is good for a couple of reasons, right? One, there are more relievers available than right-handed hitting outfielders. There's just a bigger pool to choose from, which means there's a better chance you can get a great guy. There's not top-of-the-line outfielders that come available every year. But every year there are top-of-the-line relievers. The question is, are you willing to pay the price? Well, there may only be one bullpen arm added, and you might say, well, Connor, you've been saying two all season long. I think they need three. Okay, listener of Locked On Phillies, I appreciate you. Well, here's the thing. Dombrowski laid this out, and he talked about the benefits of moving a starter or two or three to the bullpen to make things work. Just think about this with me for a second. So right now in the bullpen, you have Matt Strahm, who's struggling, but still part of your postseason plans. I'd like him as a seventh or eighth inning guy. He's not your closer. You have Ryan Kerkering, kind of an up and down year, still great potential. I like what I've seen from him lately. He's going to be a back end of the bullpen guy. You have Jordan Romano, settled in nicely. People are going to be nervous about him, but the stuff plays. We'll see. I don't feel great about it, but he's going to be a back end of the bullpen guy. So you really have three dudes that you can trust. You probably want to get that to 5 or 6, which is why I was thinking 2. And some people may be thinking 3. Well, your rotation is going to be 4 guys. And right now you have 7 starting pitchers that could feasibly throw in a postseason series in just the starting rotation, right? You have Wheeler, Sanchez, Suarez, Luzardo, Nola, Painter, Abel. All right, that's 7 dudes. Looks like you got 3 guys right there without a home. And, well, you're going to have to figure out. And also, there will be postseason games, right? If you play long enough, there will be blowout games, right? Not every postseason game is 2-1. Sometimes you do run it up against a team. Sometimes you get it run up against you. That's not ideal, but there will be Tanner Banks innings. There may be Taijuan Walker innings in there where you're up 4 or 5 because the offense is having a hot day, right? So it doesn't just have to be those dudes. But let's say right now your playoff rotation is Wheeler, Suarez, Luzardo, Sanchez. Those are your 4 guys, right? I don't see Mick Abel going down. Now, I don't know how guys like Mick Abel or Andrew Painter are fitting into the bullpen. Like, I don't know if they're ready to just pop into a major league bullpen in their first years at the major league level and contribute in high leverage situations, which is why you got to go out and get a closer or like a major back end dude at the deadline. But if you think that Abel, Painter, and then, hey, maybe it's like Christopher Sanchez who throws today. Maybe he goes to the pen. He's got pen experience. Ranger Suarez, maybe he goes to the pen. He's got pen experience. And Nola comes back and Nola looks good, right? I know that sounds far-fetched right now because we haven't seen him pitch in forever. And when we did this year, it wasn't good. But we know postseason-wise, he stepped up. We know there's a lot of time left in the season. We're only just hitting the halfway point today. So maybe you move those guys around and like Nola is your 4th starter, or you go with 3 in an early series. And then those guys go to the bullpen, like Sanchez goes to the pen, and it's Sanchez, Abel, Painter, Addition, Matt Strahm, Romano, Kerkering. Maybe. I mean, that doesn't sound awful to me. You've got some good arms whose stuff could play up out of the bullpen. It's just unproven for the young guys. Like, I don't know. I'm spitballing here, but I would prefer the bullpen to be more settled. What I will say is moving starters to the bullpen has worked for Dave Dombrowski in the past. He did it with Nate Eovaldi in Boston. He did it with Chris Sale in Boston. He did it with David Price in Boston. That team won the World Series. So he believes he can make that happen. Now, what does that mean about outfield? If he's saying one big move and he's talking about, well, it's probably bullpen is the priority, where does it leave the outfield? Do we just roll with what we have? Maybe. Here's why. All right. I'm not saying he's right. I'm saying this is the thinking. Okay. This is not me advocating. This is me explaining. Do not take this as Connor doesn't want them to add to the outfield. I want to see them add to the outfield. But let's say the guys available are Cedric Mullins and Luis Robert. And those are like the marquee names and everybody else is nobodies. Because I brought it up, right? Not as many people sell these days with the expanded wildcard stuff. It's not ideal, but it may be the situation and maybe what you got to deal with. Do you want to trade a prospect for those guys? Do you want to give something up for someone who doesn't really get you better? Is that a waste of assets? It could be. So maybe Dave Dombrowski looks at it and says, hey, man, I know you guys want something different, but different isn't always better. And I don't think these players are better. And there's no real impact maker. So what, am I just going to trade a prospect to appease the fan base? Maybe he doesn't do that. So is there an internal solution? Well, Crawford could get called up, which could move a guy like Marsh to the corner. And maybe he's a better option than Kepler. I don't know. Or maybe him, Rojas, and Kepler rotate, and he can rotate in. You could have lefties in the corners against a righty, Kepler and Marsh. You could have righties in the corner, Rojas and Castellanos against a righty. But that's if Crawford comes up. Like, I don't know. And then your infield is Bohm, Turner, Stott, Sosa filling in with Stott, Harper at first, Remuto behind the dish. Great starting rotation, bullpen that adds those starters. And that all of a sudden looks like a World Series team, right? But that's contingent on a lot of things, which is why I'm not totally comfortable with it. But Dombrowski will do something. It just sounds like the real thing that he feels like there's opportunity to do and a need to do is go get a high-level bullpen arm. In the coming weeks, we'll talk about who that could be. I have a name in mind that would be a big-time one. Plays for the Minnesota Twins. Pitches out of the bullpen. Yeah, you can figure out what I'm talking about if you don't know. Yohan Duran, you'd look great in pinstripes. But that's kind of what Dombrowski's saying. And some people read that as he's got too much confidence in this lineup and hoping they get hot, and when they're rolling, they're good. It may also be just the reality of trade deadlines, which is not music to Phillies fans' ears, but it's kind of what he said. So that's the latest from Dave Dombrowski. I know people are going to be annoyed by that. Don't shoot the messenger, all right? I'm just a podcast host. I don't control what the Phillies do. I wish I did, because if I did, I'd tell them to score a run today in Game 3. But that might be tough considering who they're facing on the mound. We'll talk about the final game of the Phillies series in Houston coming up next as we wrap up today's episode. Let's talk FanDuel first, though, because summer sports are in full swing. And whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel's the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. They're not making any money doing that. They're wasting it. You could be making it on FanDuel. I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups throughout the baseball season. And now that baseball's taking center stage, it's a great time for you to use it too. And the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's super easy to use. They pay you out quickly and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. It makes things so much more exciting. And if you're new to FanDuel, well, it's even more exciting for you. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Game 3, Phillies Astros. Will the Phillies score a run? God only knows. I mean, I hope so. Please, don't make me do another podcast tomorrow about you getting shut out. I know you're sitting out there in Houston ahead of the game. Maybe you're skipping BP to watch the latest Locked On Phillies. I appreciate that, guys. Big fan of yours. Glad you're a big fan of ours here. Me talking to the hypothetical Phillies player that listens. No, but seriously, the offense needs to get rolling, and they got a tough task because they're facing Hunter Brown. And Hunter Brown is the ace of the Houston Astros staff this year. He's in the conversation for American League Cy Young, and his numbers show you that. He's got a 1.88 ERA this year in 91 innings pitched. He's been a monster. He struck out 109. He's their wheeler. And at least it's a righty, so you see something different. Maybe the Phillies are just in a bad spot against lefties right now. But I don't feel great about an offense that's been shut out twice, now saying, okay, Hunter Brown time. Now, here's the messed up Philadelphia fan mentality. Oh, we've been shut out twice, and we're facing their ace, who's been one of the better pitchers on the planet. We're going to score 5 today. That just feels like how baseball goes, how Philadelphia sports go, but I'm not going there with this team. It's going to be a struggle against Hunter Brown. The good news is you got Christopher Sanchez throwing for you today, and Sanchez has been awesome. He's got a 2.87 ERA. It's crazy. He's got a 2.87 ERA, and it's nearly a full point higher than what Hunter Brown has. Nuts. But he's a great strikeout pitcher, too. And the Astros haven't exactly been crushing the Phillies in this series. I mean, it feels disheartening to see a team go out there and get shut out twice. But the final score last night was 2-0. The final score in game one was 1-0. You're 2 swings away from having won both of these games, right? In certain spots that the Phillies had, double here, homer here. Next thing you know, oh, well, we won 2-1 and 3-2. And that could have been easily the result. It's not what happened, and I'm not going to live on what ifs because that's not how the world works. But I'm just saying it's not like the Phillies are majorly overmatched. The offense is just ice cold right now, and they're not exactly facing a guy that's going to warm them up at all in Hunter Brown. Just looking at the lineup today, because we do have the lineup for the Philadelphia Phillies, a 2:10 p.m. game. So it's going to get going pretty quick here. Turner's leading off. Schwarber's batting second. Bohm's batting third. Castellanos batting fourth. Kepler back in the lineup, batting fifth. Kemp at first base, batting sixth. Stott batting seventh at second. Rafael Marchand getting the start behind the dish today, batting eighth. And Brandon Marsh batting ninth in center field. Career all time. Bohm is 0 for 1. Stott is 0 for 1. Marsh is 0 for 1. Kepler actually 2 for 7. Seen him 7 times, or well, had 7 at-bats logged against him. He has 1 RBI, 1 strikeout. But Turner's never seen him. Schwarber's never seen him. Castellanos never seen him. Kemp's never seen him. Marchand's never seen him. I don't know. I have this theory that maybe not seeing young pitchers is detrimental, right? You don't know what you're going to get. It might take you time to roll through. Not seeing proven good pitchers may be a good thing because at that point you have a lot of information on that guy. And maybe that evens the playing field a little bit. He'll have information on Castellanos and Schwarber and Bohm and Turner and guys like that. But maybe, I don't know. You don't know what you don't know. You don't realize how good his stuff is. You get in there and say, just another right-handed arm. That's how we're going to approach it. Put a good approach together. Put a good swing on the balls that are in the zone. Maybe that's helpful that he's not familiar with you. But I don't know, guys. I told you before the series, I don't know if I feel good about the Phillies in this series against the Astros, and so far I've been proven correct in that. I thought they had a chance to win the series, of course, but also just didn't really like the spot coming off that series against the Mets where this feels like a letdown, and it's been a major letdown for the Phils. You want to hear the good news? All right, here's your ray of sunshine for the day, because I feel like we've been mostly negative on the podcast today, and that comes from, well, getting shut out twice. But the Phillies, they're still in first place in the NL East. They haven't dropped the lead in the division to the New York Mets. They're a half game up on the Mets, so the Mets have closed it by a half game, but that's only because they played their series against the Braves earlier. So now 47-33 Phillies, 47-34 Mets. The Phils win today. They are a game up on the New York Mets, right? So we'll take it. And even if they lose today, they're tied heading into a series with the Braves that we're going to preview tomorrow. So it's not like the Phillies have all of a sudden plummeted out of the lead in the division. They're just not playing good baseball. Well, it's not even that they're not playing good baseball. They played fine defense. They pitched really well. The bullpen hasn't been terrible. Offense needs to wake up. Sometimes you go cold. Unfortunately, it's been in big spots for the Phillies the past couple of years in October, but this is not October. This is not the World Series. I know people have had World Series flashbacks to getting no hit by the Astros. That's not what's happening here. It's just a series in June. It doesn't feel good, but maybe they bounce back today. Here's my approach that you do against Hunter Brown. Here's the way that you get to him, right? You do have to be willing to swing at the balls in the zone because he's going to fill it up. He's got great stuff, right? So he'll be able to paint corners. He'll be able to work in and out, up and down. That's why his numbers are what they are. But be very selective. Anything even close to being away, take it. If it's a strike, it's a strike. Whatever, deal with it. But you want to try and work counts. You want to try and get to the pen. You haven't gotten deep into the Astros bullpen yet this series. They do have, like every major league team has, a couple of guys there where if you get to them in the 5th or 6th, they're gettable. Hader's going to be tough. Abreu's going to be tough. But if you can get to the bullpen early by getting the pitch count up, having longer at-bats, fouling pitches away, that's the way you do it. Because I don't see them really getting after Hunter Brown today. Nobody really has all year. And you're not rolling right now. But we'll see. And maybe Kepler, who has seen him more than anybody else, maybe Kepler has a nice day. Again, 2 for 7 career against him. So keep an eye on Max, who didn't play in the first 2 games of this series. This may be you're playing the young kid over me in left field. Let me show you why I am who I am, even though he hasn't looked like that guy for the Phillies this year, or really in the past couple of years. But anyway, hopefully the Phillies can find their way to a victory today. Hopefully we're not talking about a sweep tomorrow. Listen, if they win today, they take 2 or 3 from the Braves. Next thing you know, it's a 500 road trip, which is exactly where I set the expectations before they went on it. So all is not lost, even though not scoring for 2 days can drive people insane. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you again for joining us. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. Tomorrow we will talk about the result of today's game and also preview a big weekend series with the Braves. We will talk about it on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.